Well, I see in the newspaper today, the Calgary Herald, that the Manning Centre is closing its doors. They've laid off most of their staff. They're putting at least part of their building up for lease, basically shutting down everything except their conferences, and it wouldn't surprise me if that happens too. And I can't help but think that it comes from Preston Manning's unconservative decision to support a carbon tax, or a carbon levy, as he told Liberals to call it, to sneak its way through Conservatives. Well, it never did sneak its way through Conservatives. It was tough enough selling a carbon tax when Alberta was booming, but now that it's economically hurting from a carbon tax, well, that's just poison. It's strange to me why any Conservative thought that would be a saleable position, but until quite recently, it was the fashionable thing to say. Green conservatism was supposedly a thing. Well, then this man was elected the leader of Ontario's Conservatives and became Premier. Take a look at Doug Ford just letting her rip on a carbon tax.
Today, I want to confirm that in Ontario, the carbon taxes days are numbered. In fact, upon the swearing in of my new cabinet, at the top of our agenda, the very first item will be to pass an order to cancel the Liberal cap and trade carbon tax. As of June the 29th, the cap and trade, the carbon tax, they're gone, they're done.
Well, I used to like Doug Ford, but now I gotta say, folks, it's love. Joining us now via Skype is our friend Brad Trost, a federal Conservative MP for the riding of Saskatoon University. He joins us now via Skype. Brad, great to see you again. You've been a long-time opponent of the carbon tax for a variety of reasons, political, economic. You're a scientist by background. Tell me what you think of this pendulum swinging back so boldly. I mean, I think 6 months ago, the carbon tax felt like a done deal. Now I wouldn't bet on it at all.
Well, I think it's a good thing. I think one of the best things is when you listen to Ontario, as they've repealed it, more and more news stories are coming out about how the real purpose of the cap and trade carbon tax they had in Ontario was just to spend and buy money and buy votes. And we're hearing one story after another of various groups that got money from this tax grab on consumers' wallets, and they're complaining now that the taps are being turned off. So I'm quite optimistic. A lot of voters suspected it was just a cash grab, moralistically sold to them to make them feel good about turning over their money. But with Ontario offside, I'm pretty optimistic that Manitoba and a couple other provinces may rethink their positions. Yeah,
it's interesting to me to watch Catherine McKenna, the global warming minister, squawk about it. Her chief complaints about Ontario stopping the carbon tax and the cap and trade are all her crony capitalist insider friends who now won't be getting subsidies for wind and solar and other schemes that have no economic value in them other than they are rent-seeking, a term an economist would use for basically asking for a handout. It's very bizarre to me that her counterpunch to Doug Ford is on these elite business people not getting their, $6 or $7 figure subsidy. It really reveals it just to be a slush fund for insiders. That's how it looks to me.
Well, the carbon tax often ends up being a tax on the poor to subsidize the rich. It's interesting to listen to the progressives always talk about how they're in favor of the poor. Well, they make the poor poor, and that's why they talk about then spending the money because they've taken it away in the first place. So it's fascinating to watch. It's one of the reasons I think you're increasingly seeing places not just like North America, but overseas as well. Working class voters are really fed up with the left and are voting for someone who's actually going to defend their jobs and actually defend their pocketbooks. If you want to work for a living, you have to spend energy, and to produce goods, you need fuel.
Yeah. I thought it would be impossible to stop a carbon tax once it gets momentum, but Australia proved it was true. Saskatchewan, where you're an MP from, has always been against the carbon tax, both under Brad Wall and under the new Premier. But I'm looking around the country, and Alberta obviously will be anti-carbon tax when Jason Kenney's the Premier next year. We see Doug Ford, just all systems go. We see now that New Brunswick is trying to tell Trudeau, well, we've already got a carbon tax, it's called a gasoline tax, so we're done. Thanks very much, we don't need another one. I just see news that Prince Edward Island, they're saying they're only going to tax industrial emitters, and that being a tiny province, really no bigger than the university I went to, they only have one industrial emitters called Cavendish Farms, so I'll probably get a grant. So everyone is slowly backing away from the disaster that is the Trudeau carbon tax. I really think, if I had to bet, I think the thing's going to be stopped. I mean, when you've got liberals like New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island that are like liberal forever, saying no thanks, they're obviously not scared anymore. I mean, when Trudeau was new and fresh and high in the polls, he was scary to those liberal premiers. I don't think they're scared anymore. Am I wrong?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I'm out here in Newfoundland this week talking to voters, not just about this issue, but other issues. And I don't hear anyone going around saying the price of gasoline is too low, make it $2 a liter. That just that isn't something that you hear. I drove out to a community 2.5 hours outside of the city here last night to talk to some people. And it costs money. If you're a fisherman in Newfoundland, it is expensive to fuel your boats, to drive to and from where you need to go to live. People just can't afford this. And energy is one of the inputs to life. It's not like an income tax. It's money after that you've produced. Income tax is bad enough, but the carbon tax takes your money before you even earn income. And that's what makes it even harder for people to deal with than just about anything else.
Yeah. Well, I sure am optimistic about it. And when it was just Saskatchewan, I thought, geez, I love Saskatchewan, but they're a smallish province, just over 1 million folks. And it's forgotten country for the mainstream media, which is based in Toronto. But I feel like the battle has been joined. And let me credit you as one of the Saskatchewanites who's been fighting against this since the first day. Thank you for holding the line until reinforcements have arrived. I think we're going to win this one. Brad, it's great to talk to you again.
Good to see you, Ezra, and keep up the good work.
Thanks very much. Well, there you have it. Brad Trost is the Conservative Party MP for the Saskatchewan riding of Saskatoon University. He joined us today from Newfoundland. That's an excerpt from my daily TV show, The Ezra Levant Show. Normally it's behind a paywall, but I thought you'd like this video, so we put it on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to watch the daily show every day, including always 2 interviews a day, and I read my hate mail, just click on this screen and become a premium member.